WSOU 89.5 FM, the loudest rock. I'm Valentino, and I'm joined today with Cone from Sum 41. How you doing today, Cone?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for asking. There's so much exciting stuff happening in the Sum 41 camp right now. So much to talk about. I'll just kick it off with the Blame It on Canada tour with Simple Plan, openers, Set It Off, and Magnolia Park. How you feeling?
I feel good. It's been a long time. We haven't played a show in over 2 years. I know other bands have been playing kind of through the pandemic, but we haven't. So yeah, I'm super excited. I'm really excited to play, the All Killer songs. Some of those songs that we haven't played since it came out. Like, a lot of those songs, we played around that time because we only had Half Hour Power and then All Killer No Filler. So we had to play basically all of our songs because we had to fill time. And then since we had more albums come along, we haven't played a lot of those songs since then. So it's going to be pretty fun.
Now, again, this is the 20th anniversary of All Killer No Filler. Are you guys going to play the record in full, or are you guys going to play just most of the record, like some of the deep cuts?
Yeah, no, the whole album will get played. I don't know if we're actually going to play it in sequence, but all the songs on the album will get played for sure.
That is so exciting because, you're right. There's some fans that maybe joined Sum 41 a little later in the fandom, around maybe 2007, 2008, 2013, 2018, and they might not have had the chance to hear a lot of those old classic pop punk tracks live.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, like I said, because, as you get more albums, you have to start, if you only get 45 minutes or an hour to play, you kind of have to start taking some out. And stuff like All She's Got or Heart Attack and songs like that, we really haven't played since then. So yeah, Crazy Amanda Bunkface, stuff like that. Literally, when I started practicing those songs, I was like, I haven't played these in 22 years or 21 years. But the good thing about it is it's probably the simplest album we've ever recorded, technically anyway. We were 20 years old when we recorded it, so along the way we got better as musicians. We started getting into some more heavier and metal stuff, so it's got more technical. So when you go back to the All Killer stuff, you're like, oh yeah, 4 chords. All right, this is pretty. I could do this again.
Exactly. And, that's something I definitely want to get your opinion on. You mentioned, how you guys, when you evolved as a band, you got into more heavier kind of things. A question I have for you is when you're playing tracks live, I bet it's got to be a weird transition to go from almost like the fun pop punk of Heart Attack to just We're All to Blame, that really heavy, gritty. Tell me a little bit about how you balance that live.
Yeah, I think, we got 3 guitar players now. It's the whole set, even to play In Too Deep now, it sounds like a heavy song live. I don't know what it is. I guess it's just it's the way we play and the guitar tones and the drums and everything about it. So I don't think a song like In Too Deep really comes off as a pop song compared to a We're All to Blame or anything like that, or Still Waiting. It just kind of works. I think our fans now know what we've done through our career, and we've always been metal fans. And the thing is, I think I think we just got better through time, so we were able to play all this more technical things. So yeah, I think if you hear In Too Deep next to one of our heavier songs, it doesn't really, to me, doesn't really come off as a different band. It's just us.
Exactly. And I think that's the one thing that just connects all Sum 41 songs is just the energy, because at the end of the day, you guys are a rock band and every track you have has a lot of energy in it. And I think that's probably the universal thing that you experience when performing live.
Yeah. I mean, we've always been a guitar band, we don't, we haven't really gone into all the synth stuff or anything like that. We've always just been a guitar driven band, hard pounding bass and hard pounding drums and booming bass and lots of guitars and harmonies. And that's kind of just what we've done, whether it's, In Too Deep or a heavy song. That's kind of just it's the Sum 41 style.
Absolutely. And, speaking of the Sum 41 style, you are going to combine a ton of different styles on this brand new double album, Heaven and Hell, in progress now. Tell me a little bit about, what fans can expect from this double release.
Yeah, it's definitely in progress. But what had happened was, over the pandemic, we weren't doing anything. So, Derek was constantly writing songs. And eventually, I think he just realized he had a lot of songs. And so he started sending me a bunch of stuff and to put bass on. And you know, when I was getting them, I was like, wow, there's like some really pop punk stuff that sounded like the All Killer era, and then there was like some super like almost like thrash metal type songs. That to me, I was like, I don't, how is that going to work on the same album? You know, like that's kind of like two different Sum 41 eras right there. And then we kind of started chatting over emails and stuff, the whole band, and discussed, you know, that some people had these ideas, like, you know, Dave was thinking like, you know, it'd be cool to do a double album, or, and I thought the same thing. I just didn't bring it up. And Derek thought the same thing as well. So we were all like, well, if we're all thinking it, why don't we just do a double album, you know, having the pop punk stuff on one album and then more metal stuff on the other album, and double album. You know, so I think it's going to be cool. Like I find that we do have fans that kind of like our poppier stuff more than the metal stuff, and then we have the guys who like the heavier stuff. So I think, you know, it's going to be one of those albums that everyone can like and pick up, you know. And I think the people who like the poppier stuff will still like the metal stuff, because, you know, we've always just kind of, like we were talking about, we've always kind of done that kind of stuff in a way anyway. It's just kind of the Sum 41 way. So yeah, I think it's gonna be cool, Heaven and Hell, and I don't know when it's coming out, but it's coming out.
It's coming out soon, you know, and we love to hear it. And I can imagine, like, so you said a lot of these songs were written in that pandemic time. You know, obviously you have 2 years of sitting around, not really doing anything. Do you notice that? Because a lot of bands, when they try to write a double record, it's like so much overwhelming work that it just gets exhausting. Was it kind of easier because it was the pandemic and you just had like unlimited time?
Yeah, there was no real deadline, you know, like when Derek was sending me songs and, you know, talking about bass and all that stuff, it was kind of like, just do them as you got them, you know, just kind of, there was no timeline. There was no release date. There was no even talk about how or when we're going to release it. It was just kind of like, the conversation was basically like, we have all this time, we're not playing live, let's just record these albums. Like maybe some songs might come out in 3 years. That was the kind of the conversation of like, you know, who knows when these are going to come out. Let's just record. So when we start back on tour, we don't have to come back off the road to record more, you know, an album. Might as well use the time. And that was kind of, you know, what we had talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also one of the things that I love about Sum 41, I know a lot of other people do as well. Of course, you guys are very, you know, energetic, hardcore, pop punk, metal, everything in between. But you guys write some of the best, just sad music. You know, songs like, you know, Never There, What Am I to Say, Crash, Pieces. The list just goes on and on and on. Tell me a little bit about, can we expect any sad songs in this double album? If so, would they be on the more pop punk side, the more metal side?
Yeah, we definitely have feelings. Yeah, there'll probably be some slow songs. There's a couple slow songs on it. And you know, Derek always throws in some piano ballads now here and there. He's you know, he's been doing that quite a bit. So yeah, I don't really, it's hard to say, because we've actually, like, we've recorded so many songs now. We haven't even discussed like what songs are going to be on the album. It's just, we know we have a lot and we know we like most of them or all of them, and so we haven't, and I'm sure there's going to be more written and there's going to be more recorded, so it's hard to really say what exactly is going to be on this album.
Yeah, and you know, that's just so exciting because fans can kind of like, you know, we know the concept, we know what's coming, we still have no idea kind of, you know, what direction you guys are going to head in, and that's just super cool to see. Yeah. And I kind of want to ask a little bit about, you know, obviously when you're writing these more classic pop punk stuff, you know, you have had 3 records so far that have been more in that metal route. You know, I would consider 13 Voices and Order and Decline like metal records. Like I wouldn't even consider that, you know, like pop punk. And so it's interesting to kind of hear, like, I'm so curious to know what like this sound is going to come from you guys, you know, because it has been a while.
Yeah, I would say like some of the songs in the heavier realm are kind of some of the heaviest songs we've ever done. And some, like I said at the beginning, like kind of like, I would almost say like thrash metal. Like it's like fast and super heavy. Not all of them, but a couple of them are like really, like if I really listen to them next to Order and Decline or Chuck, it's even heavier. So it's gonna be like a blast to play live. And I think our live show after this album is gonna just take off even higher with these songs involved, because they are really super heavy.
Absolutely. You know, for all of our New Jersey listeners, you guys are coming to the Stone Pony in Asbury Park on May 7th. And for all of our New York listeners, you guys are coming to Rooftop Pier 17 on May 8th. So anybody listening does not want to miss out on that. It's very exciting stuff. Another question that I have to ask you, of course, while I've got you here, I want to talk to you about probably my favorite Sum 41 record, definitely one of my favorites. But I feel like when you talk to a lot of Sum 41 fans, this one is definitely probably one of the most underrated ones, Screaming Bloody Murder. And
Yeah.
I know that like typically when you guys perform live, we might get one or two songs in there because of that. Tell me a little bit about obviously the choice of like, choosing the set list, choosing what stuff goes where, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Scream Bloody Murder really actually took off in Europe. When we recorded that one, we spent a lot of time in Europe, and for some whatever reason, it's the way music is. Like sometimes this country gravitates towards one album, and this one I don't have any answers for that. I don't really know. I do know like when we were on our label at the time, it was really moving in a pop hip hop direction. That label, like that was kind of the big thing in 2011, and especially on our label. And they didn't really give that album a chance, really. There was no real big excitement around that album when we recorded it. I think they were maybe hoping for a popular album from us, and that's just not what we were doing at the time. And so, I still love that album, and our fans, like our real hardcore fans, still love that album. And we actually play quite a bit more of those songs in Europe just because it did happen to have some momentum in Europe at the time. I don't really know. It's just one of those like mysteries. Like, why does one album do better than the other? It's a lot of it timing. Like I said, pop music was really big, and hip hop was really big at the time. And Scream Bloody Murder was heavy, and I don't know, but it's picking the set list. You kind of have to look at those kind of things, If we were, to tour the States and play all Scream and Bloody Murder songs, I don't know what the show would be like. So we kind of like maybe sprinkle one or two in and see how it goes.
Of course. That's a super interesting point that you brought up, because I know artists like Frank Turner playing like arenas in the UK, like arenas. And then he goes to Canada and he's playing like kind of a club venue. So, it's just, some music takes off in other areas where others does not.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you just kind of throw it out there and hope for the best, and work hard. And just the big thing with us is we've never really done music for a specific time. We haven't said like, well, pop's big right now, so we should do that. We just kind of do what we do at the time, and sometimes it's the big thing, sometimes it's not, but we just always have to love what we're doing at the time, or it's, it has to be sincere or it's not right.
Yeah, and I think that's why Sum 41 has been one of the most consistent bands. I feel like you guys have never had like a flop record according to the fans. It's because every record you go into, you put your energy. This is who we are. This is what we want to say at this time frame. And I think that definitely makes the consistency of your discography.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to look at things like sometimes the albums become bigger over time, and maybe not at that time. And I think Scream Bloody Murder is kind of a grower on people, where it's like, oh yeah, I should really check that album out more. Or even like Underclass Hero 2 was kind of what you'd call maybe a commercial failure, but it's like over time that album's kind of gotten bigger. There's songs on that album now that are some of the biggest songs in our set now when we play, like With Me, and like Scream Bloody Murder, the title track of Scream Bloody Murder, that one is now becoming bigger and bigger and bigger as the years go by. So sometimes it just takes time. It doesn't always necessarily mean you have to have like a smash hit right out of the gate. Sometimes it just takes a while. There's tons of bands like that, like the Pixies kind of grew into this like huge band over time, but at the time it wasn't like they weren't like a massive band right off the hop.
Yeah, and I even think that like sometimes you're right, like songs even themselves can be like sleeper tracks. Like a label might think these are the 3 singles, this is going to be a hit, and then like a song that was never even remotely considered starts breaking the top 5 on Spotify. It's just there's no way to tell.
Well, and that's the other thing, a good point, because it's always hard to even pick a single sometimes. Like I remember on Underclass Hero, there was so much discussion going around about singles and what should be the first, what's the second, what's the third. Our label had one idea, we had another idea, and then our management had other idea. It's like it's so hard to like do that kind of stuff, and no one has a crystal ball, so you just kind of have to go with what you like the best and what your gut's telling you. And for the most part, we've always done that.
And specifically with Underclass Hero, especially, like, I'm happy you brought that up, because I feel like that's the Sum 41 record that when I listen to that record, I put it at the first track and I go to the end of the track, like the end of the album. You know, I don't just shuffle play that record. Like, that is a record that I hear start to finish. And so I imagine choosing a single from that was definitely an agonizing task. I empathize with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's good that you can do that with that album, because actually that was the frame of mind we were in. It was like we wanted to create that kind of atmosphere with that album, where we wanted it to be like, we structured it in a way that you could listen to it front to back, and it was kind of this journey. And that was the idea with that. So I'm glad that you're able to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think even, like, you know, you go into the next album, Screaming Bloody Murder, you know, Holy Image of Lies, Sick of Everyone, and then Happiness Machine, 3 tracks that are just like blend into each other to kind of make a really long, cool, like 15-minute track. And I feel that, like, you know, fans, you know, casual fans that just might like go on Spotify and press shuffle, they might not pick up on that like album immersive experience. But with this new record, Heaven and Hell, what is kind of going into it to make it, you know, that album immersive experience? How are you writing this to make it, you know, a cohesive record?
Yeah, it was kind of one of those things that's kind of just got pieced together over time. So I think the cohesiveness is going to come from having the one album be the pop punk, and then, you know, I think if we would have done it in a way where we had the heavy and the pop punk blended together, it might come out. It might be a little strange, because, like I said, like some of the heavy stuff is like insanely heavy, and like, you know, the pop punk stuff that's like, you know, the all killer Underclass Hero vibe. So I think I like the way that we're doing it with the 2 separate albums together, and that's kind of, you know, that's kind of a journey in itself, to start with like the pop punk, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, here comes some thrash metal, you know, for another 40 minutes.
I love it. I love it. Now, I have to ask, when you're playing the thrash metal, will you put on, like, you know, the 80s wigs that you guys sometimes put on when you play like Pain for Pleasure? Like is that going to be Go by the Wayside?
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna be doing that, but we sometimes do it live on Pain for Pleasure. We have dressed up live before, but yeah, probably none of that on this album.
Absolutely. And, you know, I know that I am so excited. I know that fans are absolutely foaming at the mouth to hear this thing. And, you know, I think again, it just speaks to Sum 41's versatility in the rock scene, that you guys aren't a metal band, a pop punk band, you're just a rock band. You know, you got so many facets. So it is very exciting to see kind of all this genre bending throughout your career.
Yeah, it's kind of what we've always like. We kind of just did it the way, you know, we like old school hip hop, and you know, punk music and metal. So it's like just try and mold it all together to create a sound that we get excited about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, I wanted to thank you so much for talking with me today. Seriously, just taking time out of your day to sit down and talk with WSOU. Obviously, new record, Heaven and Hell, is coming out soon. We're in the recording process, right? Mastering process, would you say?
Recording.
Recording. All right. So we should expect that very soon. Going on tour with Simple Plan. One more time, those dates are May 7th for Asbury Park Stone Pony, and May 8th for New York Rooftop Pier 17 for all of our New Jersey, New York listeners. Cone, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.